I bring you the Mighty Fulgurite. Wow! Look at that knobbly grayish rock. It's lumpy and clearly being spun on Jenny's Lazy Susan in her kitchen. Haha! Is your mind full of wonder? Not yet? Oh, well, it soon will be. Let me explain. First, we have to go back a few decades and explore a bit of life under the sea. Here, on a random spot of shallow water ocean, is the home of the giant Atlantic cockle. I chose cockles to begin this story because, well, there are a lot of them, like a lot. You may have eaten one without even knowing it. They are hard-shelled clams. Pretty. And they get served on the shell in salads with eggs and chowder. You get the picture. They're common and numerous and delicious. But we only need one giant Atlantic cockle for today's story. So here they are. I will call them Brian. Many, many years ago, Brian's mother spat 1 million eggs into the ocean. Just spat them out willy-nilly. Then Brian's father spat some sperm into the same open sea, and against all odds, the sperm and the egg met and made a little Brian. Brian spent their first few weeks of life floating on the water surface and growing into a baby clam. And by week 3, they got heavy enough to fall to the ocean floor. And there they eventually burrowed into the mud and, well, pretty much stayed there for the rest of their life. Now, I know what you're thinking. Gee, Jenny, you are so woke. You keep referring to Brian with the gender-neutral pronouns. Well, that's not because I have an agenda. It's really because Brian was both male and female. Like all giant cockle clams, Brian began life as a male and then became a female as they grew bigger and stronger, having enough energy to grow all those eggs. So let's review. While Brian was small and weak, they were male. And then when Brian got larger and stronger, they became female. If this makes you feel better or worse about your own gender identity, relax. Remember, this is just a clam. Clams don't even have a brain, but Brian did have a heart. And a single foot that they'd stick out. Whoa, I didn't expect it to look like that. Okay, well, that's the foot that they use to dig into the sand. And that's why most of the time they're under the mud. You would not see them. And you know what? No, we got to return to that. I didn't expect it. Here's the foot that they use to flip. How's it that big? Holy cow. Okay, go Brian. Anyway, back to Brian. The most important point of Brian's life is that they grew a big, beautiful shell. They ate by sucking water into these little straws and filtering out delicious things. Their mantle inside the shell collected extra calcium, creating a gluey compound that they used to form new bands of strong outer shell that protected Brian. In each year, Brian grew a bigger and bigger shell. Now, they lived the requisite 5 to 10 years and died. How? I don't know. Old age? Did something eat them? We don't know, but we do know that Brian's glorious shell stuck around a lot longer than their squishy temporary body, even longer than that giant foot. The shell stayed, and we will call it Brian's legacy. That legacy, that shell, sat along the bottom of the oceanic shelf, moving back and forth by the tide, being pushed back and forth by waves. Brian's legacy knocked against rocks and other former clams. It slowly broke down into tiny little pieces, and those pieces grew smaller and smaller until they were a splash of color in the Florida sand. Some of Brian's legacy made it all the way to the shoreline. They dwelt among the legacies of Barry the sea snail, Carla the conch. Look at those eyes. Did you know conchs were so cute? Why didn't I do a conch for this story? Too late. Anyway, in the sand were many other specks of former lives. Parrotfish poop, ancient rocks, and a lot of quartz. Now, the quartz was very smug about being very old and moving a very long way from the Appalachian Mountains. It was all, "I'm a crystal. Crystals are cool. I used to be on top of a mountain. Before that, I was part of Pangea. I am really, really old." It was a thing. No one mentioned mountains or ice age around quartz. Smug or not, all that quartz is a pretty important part of our story. But we'll get into that later. Anyway, Brian's legacy found a piece of shoreline among the other sand fragments. The diverse community of earth scraps found security with time. They were hidden under other layers of sand that protected them from the daily tidal displacements. So there the sand sat, happy as a former clam. Oh. Anyway, high above the Florida sand, a whole other situation was forming in the atmosphere. Hot air rose into the sky, cooling as it went. When the cold and hot air collided, they created clouds. And tiny little droplets of water bounced around in the clouds, creating energy. The energy built into static electricity, accumulating so many negatively charged electric particles that they eventually needed to get out. In a split second, a giant bolt of electricity flashed out of the cloud and found an outlet in the solid earth below. Lightning struck. An electric current measuring 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 times hotter than the sun, shot down from the heavens down to earth and straight into the sand. Suddenly, a mixture of shell fragments, poop, rocks, and quartz are liquefied. One moment, they're a myriad of stories and pieces. The next moment, they are molten hot, melted as one. As fast as it came, the energy from the lightning disappears. It leaves a line of molten sand behind. The quartz from the Appalachian Mountains melts, blending in with all the tiny rocks and poop and shell fragments until none of that exists anymore. They are all replaced by a new unearthly liquid thing. It slowly cools into a new form. Glass. Some call this glass petrified lightning. And so, my friends, I give you Fulgurite, an amazing piece of glass created by nature in the most unlikely of circumstances. It often looks like a straw. The inside is hollow, where the lightning bolt displaced sand. Lightning was right there. Right there, you can see. Fulgurite's unimpressive exterior holds a miracle within. It holds glass created from fragments of the Earth's story. It is an instant creation, forged out of the unexpected energy from heaven. Patchwork pieces of past lives become one when struck by lightning. It's like nature's version of Frankenstein's monster. Only Fulgurite is a lot less needy and murdery. But like the monster, Fulgurite is fragile. Glass does not stand up well against the pressure of shifting seashores. Fulgurite forms in the shape of a lightning strike. It's a long, skinny tube going straight down into the earth, a long, skinny tube made of glass. And it's hard to see from above and nearly impossible to retrieve intact. We usually find it in small pieces after it breaks apart and comes to the surface with shifting sand. Some of you more cultured folks may be thinking, Fulgurite. Isn't that what the dreamy Josh Lucas made in Sweet Home Alabama? Well, kinda. The Fulgurite they depicted is much like the movie's plot. It's delightful and completely unrealistic. In reality, your loser ex who never left your hometown does not secretly become an emotionally stable millionaire who keeps himself single just for you. And in reality, Fulgurite doesn't look like that. The real petrified lightning doesn't lend itself to looking good in movies or in jewelry. It's more often overlooked because we don't know it when we see it. Here are some Fulgurite fun facts. Number 1, Fulgurite is not actually a rock. It's classified as a mineraloid lithotelierite. It's just fancy for something in glass form made up of natural minerals that are not crystallized. Fact number 2, Fulgurite is defined by how it's made, not what it is made of. Fulgurite's composite changes in every lightning strike, every single strike, because the ground in different locations is made of different materials. Fulgurite fun fact number 3. Scientists create Fulgurite in order to study it. They stick lightning rods in the dirt or sand or wherever to attract the lightning, and that's where Josh Lucas did get it right. The largest Fulgurite recorded was made by scientists in Florida. It's the largest only because they actually knew how to find it. I'm sure there were bigger ones, but we never found them. And as we established earlier, Fulgurite is really hard to find, and especially hard to uncover intact. Fulgurite fun fact number 4. Here's the coolest bit, okay? Fulgurite really is unworldly. Scientists discovered compounds by studying Fulgurite that, because it's made in extreme heat, can only be found in Fulgurite, nuclear test sites, and interstellar space. So for perspective, regular glass is made at 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. Fulgurite is made in temperatures 20 times hotter than normal glass. The lightning that strikes is 5 times hotter than the Earth's core. Small specks of water bouncing around in clouds created the energy needed to make an unworldly creation on the ground. That's amazing. I wonder, when Brian was buried in the mud using that 1-foot tongue thing to move around, did they ever wonder that they would one day become an unearthly compound? Probably not, because remember, cockles don't have brains and can't actually think. But if Brian did have a brain, I'm sure their mind would be blown. Here's our last Fulgurite fun fact. Archaeologists found Fulgurite on ancient Greek altars sacrificed to Zeus. And, that makes sense. My favorite part of Fulgurite is holding it. When you pick it up, it's much lighter than it should be. Look closer. You can see the history of the sand that once was. There's unaltered, diverse specks of the Earth's story stuck to its sides. That speck right there is what I think of as Brian's legacy. When you hold Fulgurite and tap it, it dings like glass. It sings the song of miraculous new creation. It sings the song of Brian and countless other complicated histories now reset into a fresh story, an unworldly story. It testifies to the power of heaven and reminds us that our life on earth is sometimes completely unpredictable and full of wonder. See, I told you. Fulgurite, a wonderful part of creation.